Hi, my name is Jake, and I am a bookish drummer. So for today's video, I have a very exciting video for y'all today. This is Off Topic Thursday, and the video discussion for today is going to be my top 10 favorite drummers of all time. And like I mentioned, the third Thursday of every month, I will be doing an off-topic video where I'm not talking about books, I'm talking about music, movies, TV shows, basically anything that's not, well, it can be related to books, but not books. And so for today's video, I thought it would be fitting as the bookish drummer to talk about my favorite drummers of all time. So I'm bringing you guys my top 10 favorite drummers. Of course, this is very subjective. I'm not saying that these drummers are the best drummers, because that would be a very hard video to make because there's drummers of all different types of genres. So it would be just a kind of a nightmare. But these are just my personal favorites. So I'm going to be giving you a top 10 list along with a bunch of honorable mentions because it is kind of hard to narrow down my top 10. But I've tried my best here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So kicking off the list at number 10, we have Stewart Copeland. And this is actually a newer addition to my list because in the past few years or so, I've started to really get into the Police, which beforehand I'd kind of only knew their greatest hits, and I didn't really have any desire to go check out their albums and their deep cuts. But I decided randomly, you know what, let's put all of their albums on a playlist and just listen to all their albums because they only have 5 albums, so it's an easy enough catalog to get through in like a couple of hours. And man, did I fall in love with the Police, so much so that they're pretty solidly in my top 20 bands of all time. Not quite the top 10, but they're one of my all-time favorite bands now. And a large portion of that is because of this man, Stewart Copeland. I had always admired his drumming, but really digging deep into the past catalog and their deep cuts, like this man's drumming is so infectious and so catchy. Like anytime you hear a Police song, like his drumming is just so recognizable. And I know for a lot of people it might be hard to recognize like drummers, like they can recognize guitar players and singers, but as a drummer it is really easy to just listen to a song and just really get into the groove with the drums. And Stewart Copeland, man, like the way that he decides to play drums is very unique. He's also a great interviewer, so I, highly recommend just checking out a lot of his interviews because he's actually a really good speaker and he loves talking about his drumming. His drums in all of the Police songs are just fantastic. I'm looking at a playlist of, the Police songs. Some of his best are like Message in a Bottle, obviously. Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic. Spirits in the Material World has a very unique drum beat. It doesn't sound like it, but when you dig deep into like what he's actually doing, it is very difficult. Murder by Numbers has always been a really cool drum beat. It's kind of hard for me to play that song. Just the way that he plays like the hi-hats, like he has a real emphasis on the way he plays hi-hats and the ride cymbal, and his fills are always very unique. Just a fun drummer to listen to who always brings the Police to life. And even though like Sting and Stewart Copeland, have butted heads throughout the years, when they come together as a band, they produce really great music, and the drums with Stewart Copeland had to put him on the list. Number 9 is probably a drummer that most people have not heard of. A lot of people probably haven't even heard the band that he's in, but one of my all-time favorite bands, one of my all-time favorite drummers is number 9, Ray Hearn, who is the drummer for one of my favorite prog metal bands, Haken. And Haken, like I mentioned, prog metal, and they're a metal band, and they're proggy like in the way that like Rush would be, where they play in a lot of weird time signatures, and a lot of their songs can kind of be pretty lengthy, like sometimes 10, 20 plus minutes. And you combined, like the technicality is something like Rush or Tool, and combine that with like metal, and it just really works well for me. And Ray Hearn has to be kind of the catalyst and the timekeeper for all the craziness that ensues for all of Haken's music. If you want a taste of Ray Hearn's drumming ability, I highly recommend you check out songs like Puzzle Box and Nil by Mouth, and also the entirety of Messiah Complex, which is like a 17 plus minute song, but it's worth it. So, like, he just really just plays some really complex stuff. And while a lot of my drummers, they don't necessarily have to play in like crazy time signatures for me to appreciate them, I do appreciate when a drummer can like play really complicated stuff and make it cohesive with the band. And he's just a master at it. He's one of the younger drummers on this list. A lot of my favorite drummers are either old or dead, but Ray Hearn, man, he's killing it with the band Haken. Highly recommend any kind of prog metal fans out there, check out Haken. Ray Hearn just does a fantastic job, and he comes in at the number 9 spot on the list. And coming in at number 8 on the list, we have one of my all-time favorite classic rock drummers, and that would be Ian Paice from the band Deep Purple. And Deep Purple, even though that they're very popular, people know who they are, and they've sold tons of records, they are pretty underrated. And Ian Paice, not for rock fans and not for like drummers like me, but Ian Paice is definitely one of the more underrated drummers. And Deep Purple, like I mentioned, underrated. A lot of people only know Smoke on the Water, but they have so many more great songs than that. And Ian Paice was really a pioneer of just like really heavy rock drums. And if you want to go check out stuff that's not Smoke on the Water, I highly recommend to check out songs like Highway Star. Fireball is a crazy song with like really great double bass. Like that song came out in 1970 or 1971. And for like that double bass, like that's pretty amazing for what he was able to pull off there. And one of my all-time favorite drum songs is Space Truckin'. So definitely check that out if you want to see what Ian Paice is all about. But man, Deep Purple is such an underrated gem when it comes to classic rock. And I wish people would check out more stuff from them because their whole catalog is great, especially from the 70s. And Ian Paice is just an amazing drummer with just crazy chops, crazy fills, crazy beats. And yeah, he's just one of my all-time favorites. And speaking of underrated and underappreciated rock drummers, we have number 7 on the list, Mitch Mitchell. And you guys might not know this, but this is actually Jimi Hendrix drummer when they had the Jimi Hendrix experience. Mitch Mitchell was the drummer for those 3 albums. And man, talk about being overshadowed. Because obviously the first person that people think of when they think of the music of Jimi Hendrix is Jimi Hendrix, of course, one of, if not the best guitar players of all time. But for me as a drummer, when I'm listening to Jimi Hendrix, obviously you've got the vocals and the guitar playing of the legendary Jimi Hendrix. But in the background, what I'm listening to is the drumming. And Mitch Mitchell is one of those drummers that does not play the same beat twice. A lot of drummers, you know, like they're not bad necessarily, but they go to play a song and they have like a go-to beat or stereotypical rock beat. But this drummer, Mitch Mitchell, you go back and listen to even that first album. He's doing some crazy stuff on all of the songs, stuff that probably a lot of drummers wouldn't necessarily lean towards. But his drumming, his style just works very well with Jimi Hendrix kind of rock psychedelic. Mitch Mitchell kind of combines hard rock and jazz. Both of those styles kind of clash together and make Jimi Hendrix sound really unique. And obviously, if you're a classic rock fan, you know the big hits from Jimi Hendrix, like Purple Haze and Foxy Lady, which does have great drums on it. But if you want to go check out drums that I would argue the drums are even better than the guitar playing, check out songs like Manic Depression, really cool kind of triplet beat there. Check out the song Fire, which is kind of a song that he's most well known for. One of my personal favorites, Spanel Castle Magic, which just has a really awesome, very unique beat that's very atypical, especially for the rock drumming at the time. But really just all of the songs in general, like if you focus in on what Mitch Mitchell is doing with the drums, just very unique sounding, just very crazy fills throughout, and very unique drum beats, which I really appreciate because a lot of drummers, like I mentioned, they're not bad, but they'll kind of just play the same thing over and over again. But Mitch Mitchell is the exact opposite of that. So definitely check it out. And again, Jimi Hendrix, very well-known guitar player, one of the best of all time. But Mitch Mitchell, very overshadowed by Jimi Hendrix, which is very sad because he himself is one of the best rock drummers of all time, in my opinion. And coming in at number 6 on the list, we have one of my all-time favorite bands and one of my all-time favorite drummers, obviously, with Chad Smith from the band Red Hot Chili Peppers. And like with Mitch Mitchell, Chad Smith is one of those drummers that doesn't love to play the same beat twice. Now, I don't think it's as egregious as Mitch Mitchell, because Mitch Mitchell does some crazy stuff, but Chad Smith will just kind of do little things here and there. Like he'll accent the snare on an offbeat, or he'll add like an open hi-hat here and there. Like he'll do little subtle things here and there so that he's not playing the same beat over and over again. And this just is laden throughout his whole career with the band, which is like a 40-year career. So many great albums, and a lot of the great songs that they have are not mainly because of Chad Smith, but again, as a drummer, I love listening to the band for the drum beats and drum fills alone. And you guys probably know their biggest hits, but if you want specifically some really cool Chad Smith drum moments, definitely check out stuff like Breaking the Girl, which has a really cool and unique feel to it. Naked in the Rain is such a powerful but very unique song and drum beat, where he kind of displaces the snare hits and it just sounds really cool. And one of my personal favorites, if not my favorite Red Hot Chili Peppers song, Soul to Squeeze, he just does a very simple thing where he displaces one of the snare beats, and it just sounds very unique, and it just somehow fits very well with the song. So Chad Smith isn't like a very technically proficient drummer, but he does subtle things here and there that makes the song very interesting to listen to. So Chad Smith, one of my all-time favorite drummers, at number 6 on the list. So now we're cracking into the top 5 here, folks. So these are my top 5 favorite drummers of all time. And coming in at the number 5 list, this might be kind of an unpopular opinion, because usually with lists like this guy is either number 1 or 2 for good reason, obviously. But for me, there are some drummers that I do enjoy listening to and emulating more than this guy. But at number 5, we're going to have to go with Neil Peart from Rush, obviously. So obviously, one of the best rock drummers of all time. And like I mentioned, usually at the number 1 or 2 spot, which I can't really argue with, but I'm not making an objective list here. If I'm going objectively, he's probably number 2 for me. But subjectively, he's number 5. And obviously Rush, as you guys probably know, one of the coolest rock bands of all time. And Neil Peart, just very technically proficient drummer. And all of his drum songs are just very precise. He plays exactly what's needed for the song, and just crazy drum fills throughout his whole entire career with Rush. And you guys probably know the big hits like Tom Sawyer, Limelight, YYZ, but some of Rush's other best songs that really highlight Neil Peart's fantastic drumming and drum chops. The whole song of 2112, it's 20 plus minutes, but just the whole song is laden with Neil Peart just awesomeness. There's a 9-minute instrumental called La Villa Strangito, which just has some of the best drumming you'll ever hear. Spirit of the Radio is fantastic as well. And then Subdivisions, kind of an underrated, underappreciated drum song. Very cool. Go check it out. But basically, just listen to any Rush song, and Neil Peart's going to have just fantastic drumming on it. And while he is number 5, that's probably a little low for some people, but there are just a couple of drummers that I love even more than Neil Peart, so he does come in at the number 5 spot on the list. And number 4, like with Ray Hearn kind of being more of an unknown, probably a lot of people watching this video haven't heard of him. My number 4 spot is definitely a newer up-and-coming drummer. She is one of my all-time favorite drummers, and that would be Anika Neelis. And while a lot of the drummers on my list are specifically famous for being in like really big rock bands or just bands in general, she's actually more of a solo artist who does kind of more, how do I describe her music? I would kind of describe it as sort of like instrumental jazz pop a little bit. Like it's got flavors of jazz and pop, but it's all instrumental. And like with some of my favorite drummers, she's really good at incorporating different time signatures. And what I mean by that is most songs are in 4/4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or got drumsticks here. 1, 2, 3, 4. But a lot of really cool songs are in different time signatures. Like you could have songs in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or one of the more popular off time signature songs as Mission Impossible. So dun 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 dun. So she's really good at creating songs in different time signatures and making them just feel very cohesive, and just writing drum beats on top of those, and just having really intricate and subtle drum fills that are really hard for me to emulate. Like, out of all these drummers, probably her music is the toughest for me to learn and play. A lot of these drummers I just love listening to and playing along with, but she just has insane chops and really hard for me to play along. I just kind of prefer to listen to them because it's really hard to play her music. But she is a drummer that I've always loved listening to from the very first time that I figured out who she was. And she's still, she's a lot younger than most of these people, and she's still coming out with great stuff. And I love hearing a new album by her. And she's one of my newer favorite drummers. But yeah, she's amazing. Go check out her stuff. Maybe I'll try to link some of her stuff down below. But yeah, she comes in at the number 4 spot on the list. And now we're coming into my top 3 here. And for my number 3 spot, we definitely have an older head on here. And that would be Steve Gadd. And a little bit like Anika Nealis, Steve Gadd isn't necessarily known for just being a part of a band. He's actually more well known as being a session drummer. So he's not like pigeonholed to like being in one band. He's actually a session drummer, where if a band or an artist needs a drummer for like an album or a song or two, he'll go in the studio and record for them. And he's recorded with some of like the best known musicians ever. Like, he's done stuff with Stevie Wonder, Paul McCartney, Steely Dan, Paul Simon. He's done stuff with everybody at this point. Like, and he's been recording stuff since probably the 60s and 70s and onward. But he's just a drummer that just comes up with really cool, interesting drum beats that just add an extra layer to the song. I mentioned that he's done stuff with Steely Dan. He's done a couple songs here and there, one of them being Aja. Highly recommend that song, because that song, just the drums in that song, like the drum beat, but then also like the crazy drum solos he does towards the end of the song, awesome. He's also done some of the best drum beats, in my opinion, ever with Paul Simon. One of my favorite drum beats, if not my favorite, is Late in the Evening by Paul Simon, and also 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Both just very weird and out there beats that actually work well with the song and add an extra layer to them. A lot of drummers would have probably just done a stereotypical beat, but he decided, you know what, I'm going to do a Mozambique shuffle here, or I'm just going to do, I don't even know what you would call 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, but that drum beat in and of itself is just amazing. And on top of that, like, he's a session drummer and has just done amazing stuff with tons of different artists. He actually does have a bit of a solo career with the Steve Gadd Band, where he gets a lot of musicians to play along with him, and he does a lot of kind of instrumental jazz rock, and it works really well. I love all the albums he did with that band. Kind of my go-to reading music, actually. If I want to like read a book and have music on in the background, Steve Gadd Band, highly recommend. But also, I do love listening to them just because the drumming is super cool. He's just a really cool, he's probably the coolest drummer on this list. Steve Gadd, highly recommend checking out anything by him or anything with him. So yeah, Steve Gadd had to be on this list, and just because he has some of my all-time favorite drum beats that I love attempting to play. I can play some of them are very hard, like 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, such a weird beat, but I love trying to play it. But he's just played with so many great people, so many great songs. And yeah, he's number 3 on the list. And number 2 on the list, just shy of my favorite drummer, which it's not really a competition of who my favorite drummer is. Some of y'all might already know who it is. But number 2 on the list has to go with Mike Portnoy. And like with Steve Gadd, he has played with a ton of musicians and a ton of different bands. But his claim to fame is with one of my all-time favorite bands, Dream Theater. And like with Neil Peart is an extremely technically proficient drummer, which is great, but one of my favorite attributes of a drummer is feel and groove, which will make sense for my number 1 favorite drummer. I'll get to that in a moment. But Mike Portnoy is kind of a perfect blend of the two, where he has the chops and technicality of Neil Peart, but he also has the groove of some of my all-time favorite drummers like Steve Gadd. And he's kind of a chameleon in that way where he can play very weird, out there time signatures and just crazy stuff. But when it gets down to it, if the song needs it, he can kind of lay down a groove and just be a very chill drummer and just he plays what the song needs and a little bit extra sometimes. So he's kind of a perfect blend of the two when he can kind of play both sides. He can be very technically proficient and groove all at once, or, either or. So yeah, Mike Portnoy, mainly my love for him is with Dream Theater. He has done stuff like Liquid Tension Experiment, which is kind of more instrumental prog metal, which is also very well. And when the Rev died from Avenged Sevenfold, their drummer died, he stepped in and recorded the album Nightmare, and that album has some really cool drum moments, and he's done stuff with tons of different bands. I haven't even been able to listen to all of them. But his claim to fame, in my opinion of like why he's one of the best drummers, is with his time with Dream Theater. Just such an amazing drummer. He comes in at number 2 on the list, Mike Portnoy. And now we're down to my favorite drummer of all time. But before we get to that, I will do some honorable mentions here, and there will be quite a lot, so hang on, folks. A drummer that used to be in my top 10 but got bumped out because Stuart Copeland he had to be on this list. Nick Mason for Pink Floyd. And I know a lot of y'all are thinking, like, Pink Floyd? Like, does Pink Floyd have amazing drums? In my opinion, Nick Mason is an amazing drummer. He plays what's necessary for the song. He's not a very flashy drummer. He's not very technically proficient like someone like Mike Portnoy or Neil Peart. But Nick Mason, I love playing Pink Floyd songs. They're very simple, but he just has a certain style that I really enjoy. Also, Ringo Starr from the Beatles, one of the very first like popular rock drummers. A lot of people give him crap, but like you go back and listen to the Beatles, like he's doing some crazy stuff for the time. And the Beatles just have a really huge catalog, and a lot of their songs do have very iconic drum moments. Also, Antonio Sanchez, one of my all-time favorite jazz drummers. He's kind of more of a Latin jazz drummer. Like, definitely go check out his stuff. He's done a lot of instrumental kind of jazz rock stuff, or just jazz in general, not jazz rock. But he's an amazing drummer. You've also got Keith Moon from The Who, which he's very bombastic and just not a lot of subtlety with his drumming. Like, his drumming is just off the walls crazy, and I love him for that. We've also got Danny Carey from Tool, and he's also just shy of making my top 10 list. Tool, again, has very weird time signatures, and Danny Carey just does an amazing job with just being very original with his drum stuff and just very unique sounding. One of the more unique drummers. And then Tré Cool, again, I don't necessarily love when drummers kind of just play the same beat over and over again. Tré Cool is definitely one of those drummers for the most part, but Green Day was one of my first favorite bands of all time, and Tré Cool was just an amazing drummer, or is still an amazing drummer for them, so wanted to mention him honorably here. But now, finally, we get to my all-time favorite drummer, and for those who know me well, they already know this, but if you're unaware, my all-time favorite drummer of all time has to be and will always be John Bonham from, of course, the band Led Zeppelin. Ever since I first started listening to Led Zeppelin in middle school, he has been my favorite drummer, and no one has topped him since. There have been some drummers that have climbed the ranking quite a bit, like Mike Portnoy, very high on the list at number 2. Steve Gadd, the more I listen to him, he's climbing up the list. But really, just everyone, I was almost going to say everyone pales in comparison, but that's not quite true. But no one will ever top John Bonham for me. He is the king of feel. His drum beats are just so gosh darn good. He is the drummer out of all the drummers on this list that I love trying to emulate. I love, going to my drum set and playing Led Zeppelin songs. And John Bonham he can do everything well. Like, he can play in any genre and make it work. Like Led Zeppelin, a lot of people might not know this, but Led Zeppelin loved, experimenting with different types of music. Like they obviously have rock and hard rock, soft rock, but they had also their roots in jazz and blues. but they also had some proggy stuff. They had some weird out there stuff. They had folksy stuff. They really did a lot of different types of songs. And John Bonham, whatever they played, he made it work for the song that they played. And just the king of feel, and just has the best drum solos of all time. Now I know, people laugh at like, oh, the drum solo, time to go to the bathroom. But his drum solos were a feature for Led Zeppelin concerts. And when he played Moby Dick, like everyone was just in awe of the stuff that he was doing. And man, just John Bonham, there's so many reasons why he's my favorite. The drum beats he came up with are killer. The drum fills are killer. The drum solos, just everything he played just was amazing. And he's kind of the drummer that I want to be, although I can't quite play everything that he played like I try to, but he's definitely the kind of drummer that I would want to be. And he's obviously a huge reason why Led Zeppelin is my favorite band of all time. That's a potential video, like talking about my top 10 favorite bands, but spoiler alert, Led Zeppelin is my favorite, and John Bonham is a huge, huge reason for that. So, and what songs can I pick that everyone hasn't already listened to? Obviously, like Immigrant Song, Black Dog, When the Levee Breaks is one of the coolest drum beats. Go listen to a live version of Moby Dick. Your life will change forever. Probably not, but his drum solos for Moby Dick are just really stellar. But yeah, basically anything that John Bonham played is amazing, and I love him. I love his playing, and he will always be my favorite drummer of all time. All right, so that is my top 10 drummers of all time. And to recap, we have number 10, Stewart Copeland from The Police, kind of a newer addition to this list because I just started getting into The Police. We have Ray Hearn from Haken, one of my all-time favorite metal, specifically prog metal bands. We've got at number 8, Ian Paice from the band Deep Purple, very underrated band and drummer. We have Mitch Mitchell, very underappreciated drummer from the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, just amazing drummer. Number 5, Neil Peart. Probably a lot of people will scoff that he's not in the top 3 or even number 1 on the list, but I just like a couple more than him, but still obviously one of the most technically proficient drummers ever. Anika Nilles, just one of my new favorite drummers, and she's still putting out stuff, and she just plays stuff that I'll probably never be able to play, but again, she's just amazing. Number 3, Steve Gadd, probably the coolest drummer on this list. He's played with all different types of artists, but probably my favorites. He played with Steely Dan, Paul Simon, and then he has his solo stuff with the Steve Gadd Band. Just the coolest drummer out there. Mike Portnoy, claim to fame, obviously with Dream Theater. Very cool blend of like technical ability and groove and feel. So he's really amazing. But then, yeah, obviously my number 1 will always be John Bonham from Led Zeppelin, the best rock drummer in my opinion of all time, and my personal favorite drummer of all time. So that's my top 10 drummers list. Definitely let me know if you agree or disagree with my picks here. And I'll also, some quick honorable mentions, like I've already mentioned. Nick Mason from Pink Floyd, Ringo Starr from the Beatles, Antonio Sanchez, really cool Latin jazz drummer, Keith Moon from The Who, Danny Carey from Tool, and Trey Cool from Green Day. So like I said, definitely let me know what you think of my list here. Do you agree or disagree with my picks? And who are your favorite drummers of all time from any genre? Please let me know down in the comments below and we'll chat about it. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Give it a quick thumbs up if you enjoyed the channel, or if you enjoyed the video, I should say, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you are subscribed, stay subscribed for more content. I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and every third Thursday, like with this video, Off Topic Thursday. And definitely leave down some suggestions. What should I do for the next Off Topic Thursday for September? That'll be at about a month away. And yeah, let me know. I've also got the Bookish Drummer Discord, where we've got tons of buddy reads and read-alongs happening all the damn time. I've also got my Patreon link down below if you want to go support me there for as little as $1 a month, and my Amazon wishlist if you'd like to buy me a book. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a fantastic day.